"You're only here because I felt sorry for you?" my mom said while passing my brother a set of flight tickets. First class, Japan. My bonus paid for those. I smiled, cleared my plate, and left without saying a word. That night, I canceled every reservation, reversed the miles transfer, and froze their emergency account. By morning, TSA denied their boarding. And then, their hotel received a call they didn't expect. "You're only here because I felt sorry for you." That's what my mother said right there in front of everyone, while she handed my brother a crisp white envelope across the dinner table like it was some royal decree. He opened it slowly. He already knew what was inside and started grinning before he even pulled the tickets out. First class Japan. 2 seats paid in full. His girlfriend gasped like she was in a movie. Everyone else at the table went silent for a second, then started clapping like my mother had just cured cancer. My dad raised his glass. My uncle slapped my brother's back. And my mother, she sat there soaking it in like it was a standing ovation. And me, I just sat there smiling. The same way you smile when you realize you've been made the punchline of a joke no one warned you about. Those tickets were mine, paid for with my bonus. I told Mom about them weeks ago, how it could be a surprise for my brother. He'd always talked about Japan growing up, obsessed with the food, the culture, the whole thing. I thought maybe giving him that experience would fix something between us. Maybe even reset whatever it was that always felt broken. Instead, she took the tickets, erased me from the story, and handed them to him like it came from her with the kind of smirk that said she didn't just forget to mention my name. She chose not to. And to drive the knife in deeper, she said, "I was only invited out of pity." The rest of dinner was a blur. Bland chicken, dry rice, store-bought cake. I remember people laughing. I remember the girlfriend showing pictures of her vision board for Tokyo. I remember my brother talking about which luxury hotels they'd stay at, none of which I'd booked. I had actually picked a boutique place near Shinjuku because he said he wanted the authentic experience, but now he wanted 5-star and rooftop pools. I didn't say a word, just nodded. Ate, smiled when I had to, and when the plates were cleared, I left. No goodbyes, no door slamming. I just walked out like I had something more important to do. And maybe I did. At home, I poured a glass of wine and opened my laptop, logged into the airline account, canceled the tickets, reversed the mileage transfer, froze the emergency card they used whenever the bank account ran dry. Then I logged into the hotel site, canceled the reservation, and called the front desk directly. Told them to expect a no-show. Told them not to hold the room. I didn't feel anger. I didn't even feel satisfaction. Just a kind of calm like the last domino had finally tipped over. The next morning, I made coffee and sat by the window, watched the street below. The sun was just coming up when the first call came through. My brother ignored, then his girlfriend, then my mom, then back to my brother, then my dad, then all of them again. I didn't answer a single one. At 8:22 a.m., they hit the airport. The airline told them the tickets were void. My name had been on the booking, not hers. No backup credit card. No reward miles. No cash to cover new tickets. They stood there at the counter confused, then angry, then quiet, and then came the hotel. My mother called them, still confident, still thinking her credit with the universe hadn't run out. But the hotel had no record of the reservation. No explanation, no apology, just a polite goodbye. By noon, they were back home. No calls, no texts. Not because they weren't furious, but because they still believed I'd come crawling back, that I'd fix it. That I always fixed it. They had no idea that I hadn't even started yet. They didn't call that night. No texts. No passive-aggressive voicemails. No cold silence disguised as punishment. Just complete radio silence. It would have been unsettling if I didn't already know what they were doing. Waiting me out. They thought I'd feel guilty. Thought I'd show up with a sad look and a new set of tickets. That I'd apologize like I always did. Like I was supposed to. Instead, I slept in, woke up late, made pancakes, posted a photo on Instagram with some sarcastic caption about self-care Sundays. I knew my brother would see it. He followed me on everything. He wouldn't unfollow. That would make it obvious he was upset. Around 4 o'clock p.m., I got a text. Just one word, why? I didn't answer. At 7:11 p.m., they showed up at my apartment. I live in a building with a locked front entrance, but someone must have held the door open. I heard the knock and already knew who it was. I opened the door and saw all three of them. My brother, my mother, and his girlfriend, who looked more embarrassed than angry. She clearly didn't sign up for this kind of family drama. My mother didn't even say hello. She walked right in like she owned the place. My brother followed quiet, hands in his pockets. His girlfriend hovered in the hallway for a moment before stepping inside too. "Why would you do that?" my mother finally asked. I didn't say anything at first. Just let the question sit in the air. Then I asked her one back. "Why did you tell everyone it was your gift?" She didn't answer. I could have launched into a speech, laid out the years of being the backup son, the one who fixed everything, paid for everything, and still somehow was always the one they were doing a favor by including. I could have yelled, accused, demanded an apology, but I didn't. Instead, I looked at my brother and said, "You want to know the truth?" He nodded. "I'm not rich," I said. "I'm not even doing that well. I don't have a startup. I'm not investing. I'm not anything. I'm a driver. I drive this guy around. A blogger. He's the one with the money. I just work for him. That bonus, that was a tip, a one-time thing. I spent it all on those tickets and the hotel and your trip. And I let Mom take the credit because I thought I don't even know what I thought." The silence that followed was almost comical. My mother blinked like she'd misheard me. My brother opened his mouth, then closed it. His girlfriend looked at him. "Not me. You lied." My mother finally said, "No. You assumed and I didn't correct you because I knew you wouldn't like the real story." She didn't argue. None of them did. They left soon after. My mother didn't even say goodbye. My brother gave me a strange look somewhere between guilt and pity. His girlfriend mumbled something polite. But the next day, everything shifted. That afternoon, my parents showed up again. This time without my brother. They brought food like it was a peace offering. My dad, who barely ever spoke to me unless he needed something fixed around the house, sat down and started chatting like we were best friends. Then the conversation took a turn. They started complaining about my brother, about how he was selfish, irresponsible, arrogant, about how he had changed, about how he didn't appreciate what they did for him, how they were disappointed, how I was the real family, the reliable one, how they were glad I told the truth because now they knew who they could count on. I just nodded, smiled when I had to, and when they asked if I could help cover some of their expenses next month, I said no. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't want to. That's when the real drama began. The shift was fast, almost impressive. One week I was invisible, a spare part in the family engine. The next, I was the favorite son, the trusted one, the adult. My parents started texting me updates about bills, about errands, about the small things they used to tell my brother. My dad even asked if I could help him set up online banking. It was laughable. I said no to everything politely, calmly. No explanations, just no. They didn't push. Not at first. I think they believed it was a phase. That I was being petty. That if they kept buttering me up, I'd fold. But then things started to unravel. I got a call from my aunt on my dad's side. We talked maybe once every 3 months. So her name flashing on my screen meant something was up. She started by asking if everything was okay between me and my brother. Said she heard from my mom that he'd been distant, and she just wanted to understand. I didn't say much, just told her to talk to them. An hour later, my cousin texted me, "Your mom just called my mom crying. What the hell is going on over there?" That's when I knew they were spinning it, telling people my brother had changed, that he was cold, that he'd become selfish, painting themselves as heartbroken, confused parents who just didn't understand what they did wrong. And then 2 days later, my brother called. He didn't ask about Japan. He didn't bring up the hotel or the canceled flights. He didn't even mention our last conversation. He just asked if I could meet for lunch. I said yes. We met at a quiet place downtown. He looked tired, not just hungover or sleep-deprived. Really tired, like something had been pressing down on him for a while. He didn't waste time. "Can I ask you something honestly?" "Sure." "Did you tell them about the money?" I blinked. "What money?" "The loan." I hadn't. Turns out 6 months ago he borrowed a sizable chunk from our parents. Said it was for a business opportunity, a freelance gig with big potential. My parents, in their usual style, gave it to him without a contract, without details. They bragged about it to relatives, how they were supporting their son's future, how he was going to make it. He wasn't. The gig fell through. He couldn't pay it back. And now, after the Tokyo mess and the drama they were still trying to spin, they'd started threatening him, calling daily, demanding repayment, telling relatives he was a thief, a liar. He looked ashamed when he said it, like he wanted to defend himself but couldn't. I didn't think they'd turn on me this fast. He said, "They said you were the one who told them I was a failure." I didn't. I said, "I know, but they're telling everyone you did." It was a surreal moment. Me sitting across from the golden child, watching him unravel. I should have felt smug, vindicated. I didn't. I just felt tired. They're trying to make us hate each other. He said, "They don't have to try very hard." He looked at me for a long time. Then he nodded like he agreed, but didn't want to admit it. "I'm going to fix it." He said, "Okay." But I didn't believe him. And I don't think he believed himself either. 3 days later, our mother showed up at my door again, alone this time. Said she needed to talk. Said it was serious. "You need to help him." She said, "He's going to ruin us." I just stood there. "We gave him everything." She said, "And now he's turned on us. He's making us look like fools. People are talking. So do something. Help. You always do." I smiled. "I don't want to." She looked stunned, like no one had ever said that to her before. Like I'd broken some unwritten rule. That was the last time she came over. After that, everything exploded. It started with a Facebook post. My cousin Rachel, the kind who always thinks family business is her business, posted a passive-aggressive quote about people who betray those who raised them. The comments were worse, vague swipe set, entitled kids, fake success stories, and one from my aunt who wrote, "Some of us were raised with morals. Some of us were raised with excuses." It didn't take long before my inbox lit up with messages from people I hadn't talked to in years. Old friends of my parents, neighbors, a few distant relatives asking if everything was okay. One even asked if I was really just a driver. I didn't answer any of them. Then my brother called, said someone from my mom's church had approached him and asked if he needed financial help, that they'd heard he was being blackmailed by his own sibling, that maybe I had taken money from him and then blamed it on the parents. It was chaos, manufactured, rehearsed, and perfectly distributed. And here's the kicker. My parents weren't even denying it. They were leaning into it, playing both sides, telling some people that my brother stole from them, telling others that I had manipulated him, acting like victims to everyone who'd listen. That's when my brother cracked. He showed up at my apartment one night, not angry, just done, like he had finally hit the point I had reached months ago. "I told them I wasn't paying them back," he said. "I told them to leave me alone, that if they wanted to go public with this, I'd go louder." I believed him because I could hear it in his voice. He wasn't scared anymore. He was just sick of pretending. And then he told me the part that really flipped everything. "They're broke." I stared at him. They've been broke for a while. Credit cards maxed. Home equity drained. Dad's pension is basically nothing. That loan, that wasn't savings. That was money they pulled from a line of credit. They were hoping I'd make something of it. Now they're blaming me for sinking the ship. It hit me like a punch. All those years of them acting like they were above struggle. Judging me for my job. Judging him for not living up to their vision. And they were underwater the whole time. And now the best part, they had no one left. The relatives were split. Some believed them. Some didn't. Some stayed out of it entirely. But nobody wanted to clean up the mess. No one wanted to write a check or offer a place to stay. Suddenly, the golden couple who raised 2 disappointments were sitting in a house they couldn't afford. Alienated from the kids they never really respected. Waiting for a miracle that wasn't coming. And me, I kept my distance. I watched them spiral. I let it unfold. I could have helped. I didn't. Because for the first time I was free. But it wasn't over. Not yet. The family hadn't collapsed. It was just teetering. And then came the final blow. The message came from Aunt Linda on a Tuesday afternoon in the form of a voicemail that sounded more like a warning than a check-in. "Henry, it's Linda. I don't know if you've heard, but your parents are in trouble. They're losing the house." I played it twice. That night, I called her back. She didn't waste time. "They got the foreclosure notice last week. I only found out because your mother called asking if I knew any real estate lawyers who worked quietly." She let that sink in. She still hasn't told anyone else. Not even your brother, as far as I can tell. She's acting like it's some temporary glitch. It wasn't. I got the full story from my brother the next morning. We met at a diner, the same one we used to go to as kids back when things were simpler before our parents decided we were investments with deadlines. He looked worse than the last time I saw him. He'd been trying to talk to them for days. They were avoiding his calls or giving him half-truths when they did answer. I slid my phone across the table and showed him the email I just received from Aunt Linda. She had sent over a copy of the foreclosure notice. The numbers were worse than either of us expected. 3 mispayments, second mortgage dried up, credit cards maxed, savings practically non-existent. They hadn't just made a few bad decisions. They'd burned everything. "I thought they had money," he muttered. "Mom always said they were fine. She told me they had retirement investments." "They lied," I said again. That sat between us like a brick. "I think they've been broke for years," I said after a while. "They just got good at hiding it. They weren't trying to fix anything anymore. They were too deep in it. They were trying to survive the collapse without looking like they were drowning. We had a decision to make. Walk away and let the house go. Let them face the consequences. Or step in. We chose something in between. It wasn't about saving them. It was about controlling the damage for ourselves, for what was left of the family. We weren't going to throw money into a fire, but we also weren't going to let them get evicted like strangers. So we pulled our resources, went to a financial advisor, had a lawyer draft up a 6-month agreement. We'd cover the arrears and stop the foreclosure under strict terms. No more secrets, no more drama. They'd pay us back or the house would be sold, and we made them sign it. That conversation was one I'll never forget. We sat down at their kitchen table. My brother did most of the talking. I watched their faces. My dad didn't blink, just stared at the papers like they were written in another language. My mother was quieter than I'd ever seen her. When he explained the terms, she actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because she couldn't believe we were serious. "This is how you treat your own parents?" she asked. "No," I said. "This is how we treat people who lied to us, used us, then expected us to clean it all up in silence." "You're not family anymore," she said, just loud enough to sting. "I figured that out at your birthday dinner," I replied. We left the documents on the table and walked out. 3 days later, they signed. It didn't fix anything, but it stopped the bleeding until word got out. Somehow the details leaked, probably from someone in the family circle. And suddenly the narrative flipped again. My parents were being held hostage by their kids, forced to sign legal documents, threatened with eviction by their own sons. It spread like wildfire. Phone calls, angry Facebook posts. Cousins who hadn't spoken to me in years now had opinions about loyalty, about duty, about family. I didn't care. Neither did my brother. What surprised me was how many people stayed silent. People who used to praise my parents. People who believed everything they said. When the truth came out, when the numbers and lies all added up, those people stopped defending them. They just disappeared. That's when the house went cold. Not literally, but emotionally. They stopped calling anyone, stopped inviting family over, closed the blinds. My dad stopped going to church. My mother deactivated her social media. It was like they'd gone into hiding. They hated the pity more than they hated the truth. And even with the foreclosure off the table, they were still losing everything. But the final collapse that came next, and no one saw it coming. The final collapse didn't come with screaming or a last explosive argument. Came with an email. My brother forwarded it to me one morning. The subject line was short. "Need help?" It was from my dad. He hadn't emailed either of us in years. Not since my brother dropped out of grad school, and I refused to help them co-sign a loan for a new car. Inside was a single sentence. "Your mother is in the hospital." No details, no emotion, just that. I called immediately. No answer. I called again. Still nothing. Finally, I got a hold of one of my mom's friends, someone she used to play bridge with before the isolation started. She told me what had happened. A fall in the kitchen, concussion, fractured wrist. She was okay, but they'd kept her overnight for monitoring. My father hadn't told anyone, not even the extended family. I went, my brother came too. We walked into the hospital room and found her sitting up, arm in a sling, staring out the window like she wasn't surprised to see us, but also didn't care that we were there. My dad was in the corner, not reading the newspaper in front of him. No one said anything for a full minute. Finally, she turned and looked at us. Her voice was low. I didn't want you here. Note it, my brother said, and sat down anyway. It was a short visit. We didn't rehash anything. Didn't mention the house or the loans or the signed agreement still sitting in a folder at the lawyer's office. We talked about the injury, about discharge dates, about the basics. When we left, my dad walked us to the parking lot. She's not well, he said. Not just this. Everything has been building. We nodded. I didn't know what to do anymore. I still don't. That was the first honest thing he'd said to me in years. Later that week, we found out they'd stopped paying the property taxes again, even after the 6-month lifeline we gave them. They were trying to hold on to everything, even as it crumbled under their feet. That was when the extended family split completely. Some blamed us, said we were cruel, said we turned our backs on our parents when they needed us most, said we humiliated them by making them sign that agreement, by telling the truth too loudly. Others said nothing, but they stopped calling, stopped inviting us to weddings, to birthdays. The invites dried up. The silence became routine, and some reached out quietly, said they understood, said they were sorry, said they'd seen the way things had really gone, that they'd noticed years ago how our parents only reached for us when they needed something, that they'd seen the favoritism, the manipulation, but none of it mattered by then. The family wasn't just cracked. It was gone. Sides had been drawn. People had chosen. The house was just a symbol now of everything that used to hold us together. A lie we all believed until we didn't. In the end, my brother and I walked away from the wreckage. Not victorious, just finished. We don't talk about them much anymore. Not because it hurts, but because there's nothing left to say. And sometimes that's how you know a story is truly over. When even the anger gets tired. The update: a year passed quietly. There was no dramatic reunion. No holiday truce, no sudden apology, just space. My parents sold the house in the spring below market. Quiet sale through a friend of a friend. They moved into a smaller place, an old duplex 2 towns over. No one was told. I found out from the realtor who helped list it, a guy I used to know from high school. He said they looked tired, not angry, not broken, just tired. My brother's doing better. He started freelancing again. Real jobs this time. Design work. Built a decent client list. We talk once or twice a week. Not like best friends, more like veterans. People who survived the same storm and walked out different. My mom hasn't called. Neither has my dad. Every now and then, I hear a whisper. Someone at a wedding, a family friend in a grocery store passing along that they asked about me. That's all it ever is. A breadcrumb that leads nowhere. And me? I'm still driving. Not forever. Just for now, saving more. Speaking less, not out of spite, just because peace makes a lot of noise when you're not used to it. Some stories don't need a twist ending. Some just end. And you walk away because you finally can.